Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chaz Kayado, and the topic of today's conversation is Word versus Google Documents or Google Docs. And I'm going to go through it through the lens of both a teacher and a doctoral student. And so hopefully the goal of this video is to help you understand a little bit better which may be best for you, because while both being software programs that you can use for your papers, you may find that one is more to your liking than the other. So I'll go through my experiences to give you a little bit of background and help you decide which one's best for you. So I guess I'll first start with Google Docs. So I have pretty much used Google Docs almost exclusively over the past 10 to 15 years, except for using Word for some of my assignments as a student. So part of the reason that I like Google Docs is I feel like it's a little bit more intuitive. There are less features in Google Docs, so it's a little, the learning curve for it is a little less steep. And I like that you can kind of just get straight into a Google Doc and you can just start going at whatever you want to write. And for the most part, I haven't had many issues. Almost all of my papers that I wrote in in my master's program, as well as many of the papers I wrote in my doctoral program heading into the dissertation, had been done on Google Docs. So I had no issues with any of the basic paper writing that I had done. Like I said, I found that Google Docs was, or it still is, very intuitive. Whenever I needed to learn how to do something new, which wasn't that often, but when I did, it was a very simple process of, either just Googling how do I do this, or maybe watching a short YouTube video. But for the most part, like I said, the vast majority, 90% of what I had done in my my most recent bout of schooling, I had done through Google Docs. And then as a teacher, I do almost everything through Google Docs as well. It's really simple. It does help that, doing things like having classes set up through Google Classroom makes using the Google suite of products very simple, like Sheets as well as Google Docs. So overall, my experience with Google Docs is or has been great, and I still use it on a daily basis. Like I said, there aren't a ton of features when you compare it to something like Word, or I shouldn't say not a ton. There's majority of them. There are a few things in Word that you would struggle to do in Docs. Not a whole lot, but there are a few. And same thing with Excel to Sheets. Sheets can do most things Excel can, but there's still a few things that Excel does that Sheets can't. But overall, I would recommend using Google Docs unless if your school requires that you use Word, then I guess you're going to have to use Word. But part of the process where I needed to use Word was during the dissertation process, when I would get feedback from the teacher, and the way that feedback is left in Word, I can only assume is not comparable to what can be done in Docs, because the school never had me use Docs. It only had me use Word. So I'm assuming that at that point it becomes easier to use Word than it is for Google Docs. So, but for the most part, when I wasn't getting feedback from my professors on the papers that I was sending in, it was very simple and straightforward. I love Google Docs, super simple. Okay, so let's talk about Microsoft Word. Through American College of Education, I actually have access to something called Word 365, which is a more simplified version of Word, um, and I do have access to Word through my school. So I really have access to all three. I have access to Google Docs. Obviously, all you need is a Google account, and you can have access to Google Docs. I get Word 365 through American College of Education, and then through just the school that I teach at, I have access to Word. So something kind of interesting, even though I have access to Word 365 through ACE, really you need regular Word to do a lot of what ACE wants you to do. So having 365 is great because just like Google Docs, I get everything saved immediately into the cloud. One of the worst feelings in the world back in the day when you're in Word and you're typing, and for some reason either the computer crashes or you forgot to save and you accidentally exit, and it's just the worst feeling in the world. You just lost a lot of information. Having 365, it is cloud-based, so you do have the ability to just have everything saved immediately, which is nice. Although Word 365 is a stripped-down version of regular Word, and there have been times where I needed to do something that required regular Word, and 365 did not allow me to do that. And these are things literally for my dissertation. For instance, one of the issues that I had recently was trying to figure out how to do a table of contents with the hyperlinks and all that, and the information that I found on the internet just isn't 365 is just not meant for what I was trying to do with my dissertation. You could do a table of contents in 365, but it wasn't formatted the way I needed it to be formatted. And when I tried to find information, whether that be videos or just a simple Google search, I could not find anyone discussing how to overcome some of these limitations. So just understand, if you're writing your paper in 365, I mean, that's great, but you may run into issues where you need to do something and you can't do it in 365. You actually need Word to, you need the regular version of Word to do what you need to do. So just be aware of that. Now there is an issue that I had a couple of times when doing something in Google. So when you save something in Word, it's going to be saved as a .doc, right? And when you save something in Google Docs, it's going to be saved as a .docx, and they're pretty interchangeable. You can open them up. Like I can save a docx and open it up in Word. I haven't had any issues with that, but I did notice that there were occasions where I would open up the docx and things were just slightly shifted. So just be aware of that. You may want to open it up before you send it to your teacher or turn it in, just to see how it shows up in another, if you have access to Word, obviously. But to be fair, I've also seen some similar things with 365 to Word. So it could just be that when you're using a browser-based or online cloud-based writing tool, writing software program, for some reason it just doesn't always sync up with Word. But overall, I found that I still liked the idea of 365 versus Word. So when I am writing my dissertation, I'm doing it in 365. But when I send that off to my professors, they're going to send me back a document that I have to open in Word. So I will have to still use Word even though I'm using 365, and there's really no way around that. You could just do everything in Word if you wanted to. By no means, you are not required to use 365. But like I said, I do really like the idea that when things are done, it's saved immediately. It's just, I'm just so scared that one day I'll be working on a doc or working on a Word doc, and then all of a sudden it's just gone for some reason and I can't get it back. So even though I need to use Word and I can't really use Google Docs for my dissertation, I'm still going to write the majority of it in in 365. You know, I would really even hardware issues, like what happens if you know, I get a virus on my computer or something like that, and then I can't access my computer and I only have it in Word files on that hard drive. It's just much more reassuring to do to use 365. So overall, let me just go back over my thoughts on all three, because I know sometimes I can kind of ramble. Google Docs is probably my favorite. I use it on a daily basis, and I used it for 90% of my schoolwork as a student, and I use it pretty much for 100% of my schoolwork as a teacher. Once I started the dissertation process, I had to use Word. I mostly use 365 when I'm writing my first drafts. But once I get to the feedback process, I do have to shift that over to Word. Then in terms of what you have available to you, Google Docs is not going to have it's not going to have all of the well, really, Docs and 365, neither of them are going to have all of the features of Word. So if you really need to get down to the nitty-gritty of having a ton of different features for a very specialized paper that you're writing or whatnot, and I haven't even scratched the surface of everything that you can do in Word, but if you need a lot of different resources for your document, then Word is probably the route you want to go. Hopefully that gives you a little idea of the differences between the three and kind of which direction you should go. If you have any questions, if I didn't make myself clear, you can just comment below and I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you guys.